Have you ever noticed that sometimes the thing you want the most is also the thing you secretly resist the most? A better job. A healthier lifestyle. A stronger relationship. More confidence. You tell yourself you're ready, but the moment change becomes real, something inside you pulls back. It's almost like your own mind has declared war on your future. And here's the surprising part. That uncomfortable feeling isn't proof that you're making the wrong decision. In many cases, it's proof that your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Most people believe they dislike change because they're lazy, weak, or afraid. But that's not the whole story. The truth is much more fascinating. Your brain is constantly trying to keep you alive, not necessarily happy. Those are two very different goals. Safety always comes before happiness in the ancient parts of the brain. If something is familiar, your brain automatically labels it as safer than something unknown, even if your current situation is making you miserable. Think about that for a second. Someone can stay in a stressful job for years. Someone else can remain in a relationship that no longer brings joy. Another person may keep postponing their dream business, fitness journey, or creative project. From the outside, it doesn't make much sense. But inside the brain, it does. Familiar discomfort often feels less threatening than unfamiliar possibility. Imagine standing at the edge of a forest you've walked through every day for years. You know every tree, every rock, every shortcut. One day someone tells you there's a much better path on the other side of the mountain. It promises more sunlight, cleaner air, and incredible views. But to get there, you have to leave the forest you know and enter terrain you've never seen before. Even if the new destination is objectively better, your first emotional reaction probably won't be excitement. It'll be hesitation. That's exactly how your mind experiences change. Researchers have spent decades studying something called uncertainty avoidance. Human beings naturally prefer situations they can predict. Predictability reduces stress because the brain doesn't have to constantly evaluate potential threats. When life becomes uncertain, your nervous system increases its level of alertness. Your heart rate may rise. Your thoughts become more active. You may overanalyze everything. None of this necessarily means danger is present. It simply means your brain doesn't yet know what to expect. This explains why even positive changes can feel strangely uncomfortable. Getting married. Moving into a dream house. Starting a business you've always wanted. Having your first child. Receiving a promotion. These are wonderful life events, yet they often come with anxiety. People sometimes think they're doing something wrong because they don't feel purely excited. But excitement and anxiety are surprisingly close relatives. In fact, both involve heightened physical arousal. The difference often comes down to how your mind interprets the experience. Here's another interesting twist. Your identity can become one of the biggest obstacles to change. Without realizing it, we all tell ourselves stories about who we are. I'm not confident. I'm always late. I'm terrible with money. I'm just an anxious person. I'm not athletic. These sentences may seem harmless, but they become mental blueprints. Once your identity forms around a certain belief, your brain begins protecting it. Even positive changes can feel like threats because they challenge the story you've been repeating for years. Imagine someone who has always seen themselves as shy. They finally decide to speak up during meetings at work. Their heart races. Their hands sweat. They suddenly feel awkward. It's easy to assume those sensations mean they shouldn't be doing it. But often those feelings simply reflect the tension between an old identity and a new one that's still being built. Your brain prefers consistency. Even when consistency limits your potential. That's one of the most surprising psychological truths about human behavior. Have you ever wondered why people often return to old habits after making progress? Someone loses weight, then gradually gains it back. Someone saves money for months, then suddenly spends impulsively. Someone leaves a toxic relationship only to enter another similar one. It's tempting to blame willpower. But psychology suggests something deeper may be happening. When your external life changes faster than your internal identity, your mind often tries to restore what feels familiar. It's like a thermostat programmed to keep the room at a certain temperature. If life starts feeling too different from your internal expectations, you may unconsciously make choices that return you to what your brain recognizes. This is why lasting change usually isn't just about changing behavior. It's about changing self-perception. Another reason change feels uncomfortable is because your brain constantly predicts the future. Every second of every day, it creates expectations about what's about to happen. Most of the time you don't even notice this process because it's automatic. When those predictions suddenly become inaccurate, your brain has to work harder. That extra mental effort feels uncomfortable. It's cognitive strain. Think about driving a familiar route to work. You barely think about it. Now imagine driving in a foreign country with different road signs, unfamiliar traffic patterns, and streets you've never seen before. You become mentally exhausted much faster, not because driving itself changed, but because prediction became more difficult. Life changes work the same way. A new job. A new city. A new routine. A new relationship. Your brain has fewer reliable predictions available, so everything feels more mentally demanding. Fortunately, something remarkable begins to happen over time. The unfamiliar slowly becomes familiar. Neural pathways strengthen through repetition. Activities that once required enormous effort gradually become automatic. That's why the first week at a new job feels overwhelming, while 6 months later you navigate it almost effortlessly. The discomfort wasn't permanent. It was simply your brain adapting. Here's something many people misunderstand. Confidence rarely comes before action. Most people wait until they feel ready before making changes. They imagine confident people wake up one day completely fearless. But reality usually works in reverse. Action creates evidence. Evidence builds confidence. Confidence encourages more action. Imagine learning to swim. You don't become confident and then enter the water. You enter the water carefully. You survive. You improve. Only afterward does confidence appear. Waiting to feel completely comfortable before changing your life is like waiting for winter to end before planting seeds. The perfect emotional moment may never arrive. There's another invisible force working behind the scenes. Loss aversion. Psychologists have repeatedly found that people tend to experience losses more intensely than equivalent gains. Losing $100 usually feels worse than gaining $100 feels good. This bias influences much more than money. When considering change, your brain automatically focuses on what you might lose. Your current routine. Your familiar environment. Your existing relationships. Your sense of competence. Meanwhile, it often underestimates what you might gain. New opportunities. Personal growth. Freedom. Better health. Greater fulfillment. Your brain magnifies possible losses because, throughout human history, overlooking danger had much greater consequences than overlooking opportunity. Thousands of years ago, this survival strategy made sense. Today, it sometimes keeps us trapped. Let's consider a simple example. Imagine two co-workers. One dreams about starting a small business. The other dreams about changing careers entirely. For years they talk about these goals during lunch breaks. Every January they promise themselves this will be the year. But nothing changes. Eventually one of them finally takes the first step. Maybe it's just creating a website. Maybe it's taking an evening class. Maybe it's speaking to one potential client. The action itself isn't huge. But psychologically, something profound has happened. The future has shifted from imagination to reality. And once movement begins, momentum often follows. Not because everything suddenly becomes easy, but because the unknown slowly loses its power. One of the biggest myths about personal growth is that successful people enjoy uncertainty more than everyone else. Many don't. They simply become better at acting while uncertainty is still present. That's an important distinction. Courage doesn't eliminate fear. It changes your relationship with fear. Instead of interpreting discomfort as a stop sign, you begin seeing it as evidence that you're expanding beyond your previous limits. Think about learning any meaningful skill. Playing an instrument. Speaking another language. Public speaking. Cooking. Driving. At first, almost everything feels awkward. You make mistakes. You overthink. You compare yourself to others. But eventually those uncomfortable moments become stories you barely remember. The same principle applies to emotional growth. Maybe you've noticed that the hardest conversations are often the ones you've been avoiding for months. Once you finally have them, you sometimes wonder why you waited so long. The anticipation created more suffering than the experience itself. Our minds are incredibly creative at imagining future pain. Ironically, they are much less accurate at predicting future resilience. We consistently underestimate our ability to adapt. History offers endless examples. People survive heartbreak they once believed would destroy them. They recover after losing jobs. They rebuild after financial setbacks. They discover friendships after moving to unfamiliar cities. Human beings are far more adaptable than they give themselves credit for. The problem isn't a lack of strength. It's a lack of trust in that strength before it's tested. So the next time change feels uncomfortable, ask yourself an unusual question. Am I actually in danger? Or am I simply experiencing the normal discomfort of becoming someone I've never been before? Those are very different situations. Your body may react similarly to both. But your response shouldn't be the same. Real danger deserves protection. Growth deserves patience. One small shift in perspective can completely transform the way you experience change. Instead of asking, "Why am I so uncomfortable?" try asking, "What is this discomfort trying to teach me?" Maybe it's showing you that you've outgrown your current environment. Maybe it's revealing beliefs you've carried for years without questioning. Maybe it's exposing fears that were quietly controlling your decisions. Or maybe it's simply proving that you're standing at the edge of something meaningful. Because almost everything worthwhile begins with uncertainty. Every friendship started with strangers. Every expert began as a beginner. Every confident speaker once stumbled through awkward sentences. Every successful entrepreneur once had 0 customers. Every strong relationship began with 2 people who didn't know how the story would end. Change has never been comfortable. But comfort has rarely been the birthplace of transformation. Years from now, you probably won't remember every anxious thought you had before making an important decision. You'll remember the life that decision made possible. Your future self may one day look back at this very season and realize that what felt like fear was actually the first sign that life was inviting you into something larger than your current identity. So if your next chapter feels uncertain, don't assume uncertainty means you're lost. Sometimes uncertainty is simply the doorway between the person you've been and the person you're capable of becoming. And perhaps the greatest irony of all is this. The more you practice embracing change, the less threatening change becomes. Not because life becomes predictable, but because you slowly begin trusting the one constant that has always been with you. Your ability to adapt. Your ability to learn. Your ability to recover. Your ability to become more than you once believed possible. The discomfort may never disappear completely. That's part of being human. But it no longer has to control your choices. You can acknowledge it, understand it, and keep moving forward anyway. Because every meaningful life is built one uncomfortable step at a time. If this helped you understand your mind better, subscribe for more videos like this.